Germany, in the previous century, of the early part, they decided to go to war. And who did they choose to go to war with? The world. So you think that would last about 5 seconds and the world would fucking win and, you know, that'd be that. But I think it was actually close.
Hello.
Hi everyone.
I am Waldemar.
And I'm Weronika.
And today we will watch a video that I wanted to watch for a very long time, because we often started the recording sessions and we have, all those cards open and we are choosing videos that we are gonna watch. But this is two-part, so we are always like, oh, maybe not today. We already recorded a couple of episodes, but today the day has come, and it's alternative history kind of, because it's what if Germany won First World War.
I think the channel is also called Alternative History Hub.
Yeah, AlternateHistoryHub, yeah. So I hope it's going to be interesting because, well, it's an interesting subject, at least for me. Wondering what could happen differently if something in history would change. And I know that they have another video about the Second World War and how would the world look then. So, well, if you're gonna like this one, then we will react to the other one. Mm-hmm. If you are not, then I will watch it alone and not show you my reaction, so yeah.
You'll keep it away.
But I hope you're gonna like this one, and we are uploading the both parts on the same day. So if you are watching this, then the second part should already be on the channel too.
Yeah.
You don't need to
wait.
Or
in a minute.
You don't need to wait. So, let's begin?
Let's begin.
World War I was called the war to end all wars. Europe was now at a new age, a crisis, where tradition and the modern day were increasingly at odds. Industrialization progressed faster than the mentality did. The old noble ways of gentleman war clashed with the brutal reality of the trenches, and because of this, millions died. World War I was the war to end them all, because this was the last time the old European ideals would fight, the last time monarchies would reign. From who won and lost, new ideas replaced them for this industrial world, like fascism and communism. Simply put, it set the stage for the next. Germany in our timeline brought Russia into civil war, caused immunity in France, and almost broke the Allies in 1917. Before you know, America. It was just by bad decisions that we saw a 20th century of American ascendance, when it easily could have become the German century. Only question is, what would this look like? What if in an alternate timeline, Germany and the Central Powers won World War I? Let's go back to 1914 with the assassination of Austrian royalty Franz.
The one clip from Norm Macdonald that I have seen by myself, that I said about it
Well,
recently.
then at least don't spoil it for me.
He was talking about there is one country that scares him, and it's Germany. And it scares him because if you're a student of history, and if you think about it, they chose to go to war, and as their enemy, they chose everyone. And they were so close of winning.
Yeah.
And then 20 years later, they were like, okay, so maybe we'll try it again.
Yeah.
And they were even more close to victory. So yeah, that's crazy if you think about it, that they were able to do all of that, and it really was that close for a German-dominated world.
Yeah, and to organize themselves after how they were, hurt after the First War.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they are really built different, or they were. Let's hope they are not anymore.
There was someone who left a comment under one of their videos that I didn't know how to, what to think about it, because it was about the war and about Poland,
Yeah, I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, and they said Poland was no match for us.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought you didn't, what we often discuss, I thought you didn't have this kind of, nationalistic feeling in Germany. I thought it was forbidden. In every other country, I can take, but I'm not saying the comment was wrong, but strictly wrong, but it's just that it's so strange to hear a German say they have any kind of patriotism about their country.
Maybe he votes for AfD. Let's continue.
Ferdinand was dead by the hands of a Serb nationalist, and the dominoes began to fall into place. Treaties certainly forced a lot of countries to declare war for their allies. There is one military decision that Germany made that almost certainly lost them the entire war, invading Belgium. France had built up their military border in anticipation for a German attack. Germany, however, had a plan, the Schlieffen Plan. Bypass the French defenses on the border by invading through Belgium, which was undefended. By going around this meat grinder, the Germans would have easy access to Paris. Well, that's not so bad. Belgium's tiny. They can't defend themselves. But Germany ignored that Belgium had one key friend, the British. And the British had one single condition that it stressed shouldn't be violated. Don't violate Belgian neutrality. Germany, in a Prussian fashion, believed more in military action than diplomatic consequences, and marched anyway. It was this single act that brought on the wrath of the British Empire, redefining the absolute scale this war would be fought on. The British would block German ports and cut the transatlantic cable between the United States and Germany. In this alternate timeline, for Germany to not lose the war, one major step is it simply doesn't invade Belgium. By doing this, Germany avoids immediate conflict with Britain. Now, this doesn't guarantee the Brits would stay out of it. Keep in mind a Central Power victory would cement German dominance in Europe, and we can't have that. But without a provocation though, this would buy Germany enough time to gain a major advantage over France, even if it was a year before Britain entered. It was 4 years of trench warfare between the British and French combined against Germany alone. France alone wouldn't even have the population to sustain a German offensive. So in this alternate timeline, Germany's military keeps France at bay through a small border they share at Alsace-Lorraine, while the majority of their forces fully mobilize against Russia, aiding their Austrian allies. Whether or not this alternate strategy would work, who knows, but it does solve the whole keep Britain out of the war thing. No matter what German military strategy is, resentment is still assured against the Tsar. Revolution can still undermine the Russian war effort like in our timeline, and force the Russians to negotiate. I'll focus on this aspect in a bit. The German forces on the Eastern Front now come to the west. Millions of troops fighting in a small area until one side finally breaks. And without Britain, that side is most likely France. Germany then invades. In our timeline, Germany almost destroyed the French defense in 1917, before the Americans arrived. So it wouldn't be long before the French simply can't defend themselves and are pushed back. Soon, Paris falls. The war in the West and the East is officially over. Both sides tried to fight Germany and lost. Would Britain just sit back and allow Germany to beat two nations in a war, achieving complete dominance over mainland Europe? Probably not. They'd declare war. It's unlikely, however, that they'd win. As the British were the masters of the sea, the Germans were the dominant military of the land. It's doubtful Britain alone could put a dent in the German occupation. America would simply stay out of the war. In exchange for a ceasefire, an agreement is made very similar to the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. In just one
I just wanted to ask a little bit like air fight. Couldn't they defeat them through air?
Air?
Easier than through boats, because he says it's a boat empire, but they also had quite good battles, like we know, right?
But during the First World War, the planes weren't as important. I mean, they were, but they were used mostly for like scouting, passing information.
They were not advanced enough, yeah, I guess.
Stuff like that. You hadn't had the big, aircraft battles like you had during the Second World War, like the Battle of Britain. During the Battle of Britain, that was the strategy for Germany to conquer the Britain through using the planes, using the Luftwaffe, because you couldn't match the Great Britain on the sea. Like they were too powerful, and you cannot march your troops.
Because there's nowhere.
So there's no way. So you need to use planes. But I think during the First World War, and if this is an alternate history, I think the Great Britain would be isolated because there is no way for any side to attack the other.
To attack the other, yeah, indeed. And it's not like you can sneak up on the coastline onto someone you kind of on display if they are expecting you to attack, right?
That was the problem for the Great Britain during the First World War and the Second. They needed a place to land their troops. And both time it was France, and the Second World War, it went a bit worse than during the first one. Let's see.
Signing of a document, Germany and Austria-Hungary seized Poland, the Baltic states, Belarus, in all of the Ukraine and Crimea. By 1918, most of Europe is now either a Germanic puppet or in the Empire. Why would they do this? Germany feared Russian dominance. Russia for centuries was this backwater European wannabe. It had size and manpower, but was woefully poor and far behind technologically. In the last few decades, something changed. It began industrializing rapidly, and if Russia fully industrialized, there was no defeating them. By seizing their valuable lands, diplomatically by military agreement, Germany legally can neuter the Russian state. Quarter of their population, now German. Most of their coal, now German. But this is just the beginning. If there's one thing Slavs don't like, it's being invaded and occupied. So the 2 million German troops in the east now face a guerrilla war against insurgents, including ones funded by the Soviets. France is blamed for putting the worst of the reparations on Germany, but it's not like Germany would be so kind if they were in the same position. In this alternate timeline, Germany keeps Alsace-Lorraine. They impose massive amounts of war reparations, and the French people have to deal with a brief German occupation. Imagine France at this time. They had lost 2 wars now to the new German Empire, basically powerless to stop a state that was practically brand new. It's not hard to imagine elements of French society would be resentful against the Germans. Does this mean we'll have an alternate French Hitler? Probably not. Even if France actually did have a French Hitler, they just don't have the population to win a war. World War I was defining for one reason. It set the stage for who the winners and losers would be in the 20th century. Not just in terms of borders, but ideology. Old European aristocratic ways died with the Kaiser and the Austrian Emperor. Don't think Germany and Austria expand monarchies to France or make the king a new power in Britain, but they do send a message that old European aristocracy and nobility is still relevant. It's very possible that the 20th century could have become the German century. The Germans wanted an economic union that united all people of Europe around Germany. Without the rise of the Nazis, intellectuals, including people like Albert Einstein, continued their scientific endeavors inside Germany. However, we're just getting started. The Central Powers have established themselves as victors in this war. What matters is how they use this victory. This, however, is one scenario. This is Cody of Alternate History Hub.
Yes, we'll continue soon. I just wanted to ask, because I'm thinking, I know technically it was provoked, so I guess that's how you do it. But if you're the main oppressor, kind of, how does it work with war reparations later? I know you win, so you get to write your own history,
What do you mean by main oppressor?
Well, Germany was spreading the war to different territories, right?
The First World War?
Not at all.
Not really.
What was not?
They blamed them for everything, but it was more
But was
complicated.
it every time they entered a new country? It was under some made up or real provocation?
No, it was mostly because of the declaration of war.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like he said in the beginning, many countries had alliances.
Okay, so then you had the right to enter into those territories as well.
You were like, oh, you attack this country, so we now declare war to you. You attack this country now, so we declare war to you.
And that makes sense.
That's how it was. But, well, if you look at it, basically the Germans were the ones who were provoked. I mean, technically Austrians.
Yeah.
Because they
That's what I meant,
they get their emperor shot.
Yeah, that's what I meant, but I was just wondering, is it enough? I mean, you don't really have to justify yourself to anyone because you won, but still you want to maintain, I suppose, some kind of pretenses that you were in the right and you were harmed, so then you have to pay me all these war reparations. So I'm just wondering how they would approach that.
But war reparations is quite simple. You lost, you were paying. It's not about who was right, who was wrong, because you lost the war. You have no saying about who was right, who was wrong. You lost, and depending on how badly you lost, then that's how much of price you have to pay. Like sometimes it's unconditional surrender, like Germans and Japanese after the Second World War. Sometimes it's conditional. I think the armistice of the First World War, I think it was conditional, but I think the Germans didn't have a very good terms. I might be mistaken on that. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, but that's how it is. It's pretty good, but I'm getting kind of lost in this video. Like sometimes he's talking about
our
reality.
timeline and then the other one. Yeah, you have to have pretty good knowledge not to get lost that this is indeed what happens.
I would really enjoy if he had like visual cues, like for example the colored version for our timeline and like a black and white for the alternate. It would be much easier. All right. Well, we're ending this video and see you soon in our part 2.
Yes, indeed. Bye.
Bye.